Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I am Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Vanucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week.
Oh, you know, I do wait. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I was going to say let him in first, then record.
Oh, that's okay.
That's
Maybe
okay,
this.
That's so unbelievable.
Hey,
There
Rattan.
he is.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, guys?
Good.
Good.
Good,
Really
good.
good. You know.
You when I saw you at
Always.
did you always have a beard?
Yeah. When did you see me last?
May.
Oh, at the CHFA, I didn't have a beard.
Yeah,
so-
right. You didn't.
It's not normally
Okay.
that black though, is it?
Huh?
What are you tinting it up?
What are you talking about,
You
Kenny?
can't ask him that.
You know what?
Kenny,
If we're gonna throw him off the rails, Phil, we'll throw him off
You
the
know,
rails.
we had talked about it, that there's not going to be any personal questions on this podcast.
How can you do a podcast with no personal questions?
And you know, okay, one thing, I found an invite for October 27th. So originally, this podcast was supposed to be October 27th.
I think
No,
we moved it
we probably
probably
moved it a
18
few
times
times.
now. Yeah,
Yeah,
we moved it a
first-
lot actually.
We've had a few
so.
things. We had one, you
Yeah.
trying to dodge us for a little bit. Then you had some legit reasons to change it. But yeah, I mean, whatever. It's on now.
Yeah.
You're here.
But
Well,
listen, if
The
you want to come
podcast
back on
ready?
the 27th, you're welcome to come back. We can do a follow-up.
I don't know.
episode.
I don't know after today if you guys are going to want me back. I don't even think Kenny's going to take my phone calls from tomorrow.
Tomorrow, let's see if I take one tonight.
I know.
Oh
I
man.
know.
Oh man.
It's all good.
Well, I'm
It's
really
all good.
honored to be here. I have a lot of love and respect for Kenny. And Phil, it's been amazing getting to know you this year as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys are, I mean, everyone knows Kenny in the industry, but Phil, I really respect the way you sort of carry yourself as well.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I want to bring it on the podcast. I mean, I was in London for a week, London, Ontario, and you live 2 hours away from there. And you offered to come and hang out with me in London.
Come on,
That
dude.
was-
It's London.
that
Like,
was-
okay, so if we have listeners
mean-
in London, I don't
No
mean any
offense to London.
but
Yeah, no
but
offense.
it's not really.
It's a university town. It's a sleepy
Listen,
town. It's
Yeah.
I've
beautiful.
been places.
but I mean, I
Yeah.
truly appreciate you doing
Yeah.
that. You know,
Yeah, you're welcome.
not a
You're
lot of people do that, so I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. So thank you for that.
welcome. But you know, one day I might call you and go, listen.
I'm in Chilliwack.
I'm
You want to come out and
stuck
visit?
If you're in Chilliwack and
No
you call
offen- no
me,
offense to
I'm not
Chilliwack.
coming.
Can we destroy two cities?
Not coming. I'm not coming to
The
Chilliwack.
poor city of Chilliwack and the poor city of London. Jeez.
Yeah. No, because
That's great.
and I
That-
didn't know, right? Like, so Kenny goes, yeah, he's Rattan's in Ontario, and I go, where? And he goes, London.
Yeah.
I go, London, Ontario. What the hell is he doing there? Like, it's
Yeah.
like there's nothing there. Like,
Well,
You know, I was with a group of wonderful people,
Yeah.
so it was.
well, you're
No,
going to
time
tell us
flew
a bit
by.
about. You'll tell us a bit
Yeah.
about that pretty soon too, because I do
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
hear what you went to, because I found it fascinating. I think
Yeah.
the concept of it's
Mhm.
pretty cool.
I
so
actually really love it. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about that too.
we'll let you
Yeah.
ramble on to that in a couple
Yeah.
of minutes.
Yeah,
Then.
yeah. we'll
do
get
you want to
into
do an intro? Let's get
Yeah,
Rattan
I can do
into
an
this.
intro. So tonight we
Yeah.
have Rattan Bagga on the show. Rattan and his family are the owners of Jiva Organics, brands of Everland, Elemento, New World, Taj Mahal, Sweet Cane. They also own a nice store on Commercial Drive called Sweet Cherubim. Been in the industry for a long time. I've known Rattan 10, 12 years,
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah,
Something like
yeah.
that. We did business together when I was at London. We do business now together, which is really nice. I think we've turned into really good friends, and I really like working with Rattan. It's been a pleasure the last bunch of years to get more involved. I think I'm part of the family to some degree. I get invited to things
100%.
last minute. You know, they forget about me on things, Phil. Like I'm literally part of the family. Nobody says hi anymore. It's just like, he's here, whatever. Who cares? No big deal. Used to be fanfare, not anymore. It's just like, whatever. He showed up. Good for him.
No, that's.
I mean, and now that you have an amazing retail store, the fanfare will come back.
Yeah, I got a feeling. I got one fan on this podcast. We'll talk about that too, maybe at the end of this podcast, because we might get some interest from other people you don't know. So anyway, we have Rattan on tonight. The format is easy because I know you're a little worried about being on a podcast. It's just Phil and I, not a big deal.
Yeah.
All people want to know is really, who you are. I think your story is fascinating. The family story, especially of the three brothers, what they did, and the kids are still in it, blah, blah, blah. Give us the details on that, what it's doing, what you do, why you do it. Love to hear what you did in London. Because it was, I mean, I think it's pretty cool. And there's a lot of companies in that family boat. I'll give people a little bit of a teaser and how to talk about secession, et cetera. So really the next 45 minutes, an hour is yours. We don't poke and prod too much. You'll be fine. But just some history. Give us, what the family's about, what they did, why they're in this space.
Wow. That's a lot to talk about. I mean, our family history goes back to 40 years. If you were to talk about business, that's when my eldest uncle, Kulwant, came into the country, and he got into the organic food space because some of our extended family was in it. So it was a natural space for him to sort of be in and play in. And it resonated with a lot of our values. We have been vegetarian for generations and generations, and that's a very strong value of ours. And we don't sell anything that we won't eat. So even in the business side of things, we are a vegetarian business. And by default, that we don't work with a lot of dairy, we are pretty close to being a plant-based business as well. So he came in and he started Sweet Cherubim, which was one of the first organic and natural food stores and vegetarian restaurant in the city of Vancouver,
probably
and
in the province.
Probably in the province, and that collective thinking of growing with the family was very much part of our heritage as well. So his younger brother Rajinder came into the country with his sisters, and they sort of expanded the business further. They were a bit ahead of their times and hit with some financial crisis in the mid 80s. So their chain of stores and restaurants that they had built, they had to scale it down. I say ahead of times because it was a vegetarian store. So we were not selling any eggs or meat or fish of any kind. So at that time, you couldn't survive in a retail store without these things. So we had to scale back. And then they started a small manufacturing unit and in 94 and started a nut butter plant. And then in 1998, that's when my father moved into the country. And again, I really admire my elder uncle's vision that instead of taking his brother in as an employee, they joined forces to start a business, which was the first sort of beginning of our business, which it stands today, is Jiva Organics, which started as a distribution business. So essentially, we were back end to our retail store of Sweet Cherubim. And they were resilient, they persevered. A lot of people at that time said, the industry doesn't need another distributor. Organic didn't have the same reach as it does today, organic food and natural food. So they were, again, ahead of their times, but they were true to their values. Like this is something that they believed in, and then they just ran with it. So we started with our business with importing all the major brands and distributing them. So like the Santa Cruz's, the Muir Glen at that time, Simply Naturals, all those brands, and distributing it to local stores with a little focus on our own manufacturing. And then fast forward to, we built the business slowly, gained some momentum. And soon we realized as the organic food industry was growing, there was a lot of consolidation happening as well. So we started losing these big lines to bigger distributors, or the Cokes and the Pepsis of the world were buying it and they were doing their own distribution. So we said, okay, how do we self-sustain and become the masters of our own destiny? And that's when in 2005, essentially Jiva was separated into two businesses, one arm being the manufacturing and one arm being the distribution side of things. And that's when they brought in another family member, my uncle Vinod, who had experience in manufacturing, to form this company called Everland Natural Foods. That's when my cousin joined the business as well. And that's when we started expanding our portfolio of our own products, and in the beginning, it was Me Too products, the products that we were importing. We said, you know what, why not make it locally? So we started making pasta sauces and chutneys and anything that we were importing, we just started making it, right? And then we got sophisticated with our branding and our marketing and our presentation of the products, and sophisticated in our offerings of the products, where it was not just Me Too products. It was something really unique that we started bringing to the market, such as our granolas, which are truly the wholesome granolas that people are used to eating for the last 100 years, not the ones filled with Rice Krispies or anything. Nothing against that. I really enjoy eating them.
I don't against it. But granola is phenomenal. It's not a lot of crap in it. It's not filled with raisins and all that other shit, or puffy things. Like it's my son loves it. Daniel loves it.
Yeah, but you know what? Each granola has its thing. That when you want to enjoy like just the flavors and the sugar, you eat that. When you want to eat something healthy and for your body, you eat the newer granola.
Let's go back and just say it's great granola. Like, it's phenomenal.
It's a great granola. And then products like Bliss Balls and everything, we started launching those products, and now you can find our products all over Canada, in some places in the United States, online everywhere, so on Amazon and those places. And we are in the business. I joined the business unofficially in forever. You're never not part of the family business. I worked at the retail store first for a few years, with under my guidance of my uncle Rajinder. And then in 2005, when we expanded into our new facility in South Burnaby, that's when I started working there. And then since then, I've been in there and enjoying the fruits of my labor in the family business. So here we are today. And then in the process, we have met some great people and enjoying doing our business and feeding people good food.
That's amazing.
That's
what an amazing story.
No, it's a great story, right?
The first things, like the reaction, like 40 years. We just like, so I don't know if Kenny told you, we had like kind of an epic September, because we had some like just amazing foundational people in the natural health space come on the show. But 40 years in the biz, right? Like puts you right there with all kind of our, like the people that built natural health, the way natural health and, food products to what it is today. It puts your family right in the middle, right in the thick of that.
Well, if it's not for people like your family, like your uncles seen it and your dad seen it, is that, and your guys is, you don't highlight it enough sometimes. And I know, because you don't probably think it like I do, your guys' objective wasn't just to provide the foods that you would eat, clean foods, natural foods, organic foods. You guys were also very conscious, because you came with not much, right? You've developed a nice living, but as you've worked hard to get there. But you guys were very conscious about trying to provide good quality, organic, natural foods at a reasonable and super fair price. Like you guys, to the point where it's probably not detrimental, but you needed a way to move away from it to some degree to make sure the profitability is there, because you guys were running really lean to make sure people could participate in this segment.
And I think that goes back to our value system. If we cannot afford the products that we are selling, then we shouldn't be selling it, right? And we didn't fluff up our prices with having a lot of middlemen in the picture, and there's no exit plan for our business. So we are running a legacy business where we're just not going to prop up the prices so we can show higher gross profit to our investors and sell and exit out of it. That's not what our plan is. Our plan is to have a robust business which can test the test of times.
Right.
That's why having reasonably priced products onto the shelves was very important to us. And that's why, so we import our own products, we package our own products or manufacture our own products, and we distribute it directly to the stores ourselves. Right. So there's no middleman in the place. Like we control the whole.
Yeah, you're the
chain
whole
From right from the
front end,
source.
back end, right from the
as
source.
far to the consumer as we can. And even when we buy our ingredients from all over the world, we're buying it as much as we can, as close to the farmer as possible.
Right.
So that's why. Otherwise, it's very easy to sell have a high price product on the shelf, right? But you want it to move, and the consumers are very informed these days. They know what the value of the product is.
It's a serious long game though, right? Like you think of new brands that are getting in here that cannot do, all of it, right? That need to insert middlemen, right? But you kind of, when you kind of really boil it down, that is how the best way to control costs is, right? Because we meet people all the time that are, they've got a great idea for a brand, they build a great product, but then they realize like, we don't have the resources to do it all, right? So doing what you do, it's an amazing way to be able to look at.
But it's a hard way to do it though, Phil, right? Because now you're committed.
It's not.
You're committed all the way through. Now
but you're in it for the long game, right? Like you have to be in it.
But that's
for the
the difference.
Game.
I think to me that's the fun. Rattan, I was telling Phil because Phil was sick and didn't getting to do the show. Like Rattan and I, Rattan was you. Rattan was my wingman.
He's a better looking me. He's got the beard and everything.
Well, people were attracted to him. Everybody wanted to talk to him. So it was worked out really well for all of us. We walked the show. And one thing I noticed, and I think Phil and I have talked about, and I talked to Rattan too, is one thing I noticed, and I don't find it really attractive, to be very frank with you, is that a large part of the show wasn't worried about building legacy. It wasn't worried about the family aspects of the business or the friendships of the business. Everybody was trying to be, the next Charles or next Fata. You know what I mean? Like everybody was, looking for the $400 million, the $500 million eggs. And I'm thinking, I don't know, you guys have kind of sort of not missed the point of it, but I mean, that's fine if that's what you want to do, but I don't find that attractive. I mean, if I had someone I could sell, I'd be happy too. But I think the thrill should be but the fundamentals of it.
But statistically, so one is statistically, it's a bad way to look at the brand,
1 in 100,000 are going to hit it out of the park. Maybe,
you know what I mean? Like 1%, 2%,
not even
really sell out, right? Like probably 1 or less than 1, right? Second is there is a difference. Like when you're in it long game, the way your family is, Rattan, like you approach products differently. I think, I think you look at things. We've seen it too, like Three Farmers, right? Like their family is farming and they look at everything a little bit different, right? Like
the dads and the uncles are doing the farming. The kids are thinking, okay, how do we do this? Yeah. Take it to another level, but that's now generations getting involved into the play, right?
Yeah. I think it's in family business, you have a safety net because you are all in it together, right? So it makes that thinking easy. And also you're looking at a long-term thinking. You're not looking at a short-term thinking, right? And to have those products at a reasonably priced on the shelf, actually the founders and the owners have to subsidize that too, right?
For sure.
Like my dads and my uncles were not taking healthy salaries. There was no like quote unquote burn rate that the founders had to have,
exactly.
to get the company off the ground. It was okay, when the company makes profit, we'll pay ourselves. Yeah. But until then, we'll take what we need to sort of survive.
Yeah.
Well, right? Pool resources if you have to, whatever, right?
That's right. And if I tell you what they were taking for the first 10 years of the business, you'd be like, how did they even survive? Right. But they truly, to build, like, it was literally, the business was like raising a child. They had to sacrifice to raise the child. It was not a short-term thinking, okay, let's get it done for 5 years and then sell it to a big company and get out. I mean, there's great things to be said about that model too, because I think it creates a lot of economic opportunity. And I think all the people that have had great exits, whether it's Charles, Mike, or Tara, and
good for them.
The people.
I'm
it's
thrilled
good for them, but it's also good for the industry because they are all If you look at all
Absolutely.
of them, they're all giving back to the industry.
100%.
They're all investing in the next up and coming brands.
100%.
So there is a place for that too.
Absolutely.
But as a new founder, you have to realize is that not everyone can be that. And you need to have a long-term approach. And I can bet you all these people didn't have these big exits in mind when they started.
I don't think any of those, I mean, the two guys for sure did not have that. Their business, they were in it. Well, Mike spent how many years trying to change?
When Mike was doing what he was doing, it was not even legal.
It wasn't even exactly. He was. I mean, I was surprised that he was going to the States to get this done.
Yeah.
And when Charles is doing it, who's doing vegan? Like, what the hell's a vegan?
Yeah.
That's right. So I mean, but they put in a lot of effort into
Absolutely.
it. And they grew that, and they are helping the next generation. So I think there's totally a place. I mean, we need those exits too, and those exits have brought in a lot of attention to our industry,
right?
Which has led to more innovation, whether it's in plant-based or nutrition or any of those things. So everything has its place, but you shouldn't kill yourself trying to make $500 million. Have a long-term plan, have longevity in the business, and it'll follow. You know, my dad always says, you know, North America, the money, you attract money if you work hard here. Right? Like we have that luxury in North America. So as long as you work hard, money will come to you. But if you can work hard in a business which provides good value to people and make their lives better, I mean, you're a rock star.
Yeah, you think it's a recipe for success, like it should be, right?
Yeah.
And it is. You know, I mean, our industry has. I mean, if 20 years ago when we used to go to the trade shows, and now you go to the trade shows, I mean. Look at how far we have come.
It's ridiculous.
You know, from
craziness.
From a hippie industry to like now being the trendiest industry to be in. Like
I told Phil, like the first time I went to Expo in Anaheim, there was no downstairs.
Yeah.
Like there was no other buildings. It was all on that main floor, and it wasn't full. It was 3/4 full or spread out, and it was still massive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember the year I went downstairs and it was half full. And then the next year it's full. And then the next year, everybody wanted to be downstairs. Then they're moving into other buildings. Like this industry is freaking exploded. Absolutely exploded.
I can't tell you the number of conversations I have in a week with, you know, because I'm still very connected to, you know, the packaged goods world, right? Like CPG, like kind of big guys, you know, Fortune 100, 500 companies. And they, you know, like the number of people that kind of say to me, this natural, what do you think of this industry?
This natural thing, like, do you think
this natural thing, is it going to last or what's going on here? I'm like, oh my God, you got to get into this. Like, this is,
got to get into it, man. The boat's sailing, man. You got to get on board. It's this is where it's going to be.
I mean, the natural industry is redoing all the bad eating habits that we have formed over the centuries and bringing it back to how we should be eating, you know.
Exactly.
I have a question. So you've got, so if I heard you right, you've got a branded product, right? That's under Jiva or the various banners. But do you, and then you've got and so you go straight to the source. So do you supply like white label, private label type stuff as well? Or are you kind of like a supplier of raw ingredients if people need it as well? Or are you just doing branded product?
Yeah. So, I mean, our distribution now has a lot of different sort of divisions. So we supply retailing. Retailers are our main core business. And then private label for other retailers of our own products that we manufacture is a second part of business. In the last 3 years, because of all the supply chain constraints, industrial supply and food supply has become a big part of our business as well. So we supply to a lot of great brands here in British Columbia with ingredients. Because we bring these ingredients for our own use. So we already have sort of like a supply chain of those products, and we're bringing good quality products in. So we're not bringing C-grade.
That's going to help too, right? Like with volume and then unit volumes and all that kind of stuff too, right? Being able to bring in a little bit more, lower the cost.
It helps with cost too, right? Helps with costs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And we have built some great connections worldwide with suppliers on these ingredients. So, which we are very proud of. So we can stand behind the products we're selling.
Oh, that's really cool. If it's too close to home, you can say, I don't want to talk about it. I'm curious when you're around family all day. Because so when I was at CHFA West and I came by, and that was the first time I had met you, I'd heard a lot about you. I met you at the show, but I had also I'm sure I met a couple of uncles. I met, I think, a cousin or two. And then there were a whole bunch of other people that were family, but I didn't know what they were. And so does that change, or maybe you don't know any different, family? I'm curious about family dynamics, right? Because you're around uncles all day, I have uncles, but one is in San Jose, the other one's in San Francisco. I see them, it's cool. But you're around your uncles all day, right? Your dad, your uncles, cousins. Does that change family dynamic? Do you guys hang out after, or I don't know if I'm crossing it. So if you don't want to talk about it,
no,
it's totally
no.
Cool. I'm really curious to, yeah.
I actually love talking about this. I think I love talking about relationships. There's billions of people in the world. There's a reason why we come in contact with the people that we meet. And if you're related by blood with someone, I think that's, so profound. So I have a lot of love and respect for that. When you work in a family business, and I think Kenny knows that because he's so close to it, you form a love and hate relationship with the people you work with, whether it's my dad, whether it's my uncle, whether it's my cousins or my sister. You fight, you make up, but we have a cardinal rule that we never bring it home. So I would have a big argument with my dad or my uncle at 4 p.m. and at 6:30 p.m. we are deciding, okay, where do we want to eat, or what movie do we want to watch? So I think one thing that our family has done very well over the decades is whatever the issue is, we rectify it quickly and just move on. Right? Because we see the big picture of what we are in. And I think that spans from gratefulness. We are all very grateful for the opportunity that we have been given to provide food for people. So we move past it very fast. It's a family business. When you work together with family, you fight. There's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of...
It's family. It's tough. And boundaries become not so tight.
Right.
I've been in your building enough times. Boundaries get crossed all the time because it's family.
Yeah. I think I'm 37 years old, and I'm still referred to as a kid sometimes in conversations, and I have to remind them, look, I have two kids too, but I have to be empathetic and look from their standpoint. My kids and my nephew and nieces would be always kids to me too, right? In the beginning, it is hard. There's a lot of things you have to come when you join a family business. There's a debate of nepotism as well. It's like, oh, you have it easy, you joined a family business, but it's very hard because you have to keep your own personal ego and personal accolades aside and work for the collective, right? And that's not a very easy thing to do for a person. And you have to do a lot of personal work to understand the dynamics of the relationships and how to go. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely rewarding to grow with your family, to share the success with your family. So I think the bigger picture takes away from the small picture. And I think all of us don't have the thirst or the reverence for money that it is stereotyped that the business people generally do. We actually just love what we do, and we are really passionate about this business. We have diversified into other businesses, but they don't, when I'm having conversations, they don't care about much larger number decisions in other businesses, but in this particular business, they want to be involved in the smallest of the smallest details. So you have to, it's definitely a learning thing. But I think every day I'm getting better at it, in dealing with it.
I have so many questions.
But you can ask it, because it's hard for me, Phil, because I see it, and
I
I
have
just
a lot.
laugh.
Yeah.
Like I laugh when Rattan's talking. Like I'm listening to it, thinking, I mean, it's true. Like they have other businesses that generate very different numbers than what this one does, and probably a lot less complicated to some degree, and returns are of a higher number.
Yeah.
And yet, I mean, I've seen his dad and his uncles grind in on a freaking, like, a packaging word or a color, or like, you're thinking, like, Jesus Christ, guys, a little higher, man, fly a little higher. Like, what are you grinding to? Who cares?
But
like,
It's their baby, you know.
I know, it's really
They
funny
watch
to
it
watch,
from-
though, because it's
it-
these grown
yeah.
men looking at it, they're thinking, oh my God, people, like, seriously.
But that is the cautionary tale, right? Because the aspirational goal is you're building a generational legacy, right? Like you're in it, you know.
But you want your kids to have
the
this,
amazing
too.
thing is you're in it for the long haul. This is not a, you know, we're not, you know, I'm sure if somebody came and offered you $1 billion for it, it might change things a little, but you're in it for the long haul. This isn't about getting out of the industry. And so everyone is focused on it, but it also makes passions run high because you are focused on it, right? Because everyone's trying to make this thing run for a long time.
Absolutely.
I think the other questions I have for you, so I'm going to ask, I think I have a set, and I think they all go together. So I'll ask you, and then you can tell me. Again, you can tell me to jump off at any time. So if you feel like these are, but I'm curious about one. Did you always know you wanted to be in the business? You know, and you know, is it mandatory? So does anyone have the option to get out? Two is, when you're called the kid, but when did you stop being a kid? So, because I'm curious too, is like when you work for a corporation, there are moments that you make your chops and people leave you alone to do the work. But when you're a kid, you're always a kid. So
You're
when
always
you
going
stop,
to be your dad's
so when you
kid,
stop
your
being
uncle's
Rattan,
kids.
who was 8 and breaking cups everywhere, I don't know if you did that, but do you know what I mean? Like when did you stop being Rattan and 8 and getting grounded for things? And Rattan, I'm 37, I got 2 kids, and I can make key account calls, or I can
make decisions,
do
whatever.
branding. I can, you know, do you know what I mean? Like, and then, yeah, maybe 2. Those are pretty loaded. I think pretty loaded questions. I have more, but I'm really curious about this. Yeah.
Well, growing up, I mean, the first thing my dad said, there is no business for you, right? Like you find your own calling and you do get your education and you do that. So my uncle is an accountant, and I have always, growing up, looked up to him. So I said, you know what, I'm going to be an accountant. So I went to school and I was registered for it was CGA at the time, for CPA, and I was going to go through that path. But in 2005, when we bought our new place, I was told, okay, hey, you should go and help your dad. You know, you finish your school at 12. After that, you should go and help your dad. Like they have to set up a whole new warehouse and go and help. So I said, okay, fine, I'll go and help. And then when I went to help, one day turned to 6 months, 6 months turned to a year, and it kept on going. And so one day I remember there was my uncle was working at our construction site, and he said that we had bought 5 pallets of cappuccino, soy milk cappuccino flavor, and it was expiring, right? So he said, okay, you have to sell it.
Rattan, go drink it all. Drink all of it.
Yeah. So I went to a couple of stores. I made a couple of calls. And this is like me at the age of 18. So I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm going to the stores. Would you like to buy some of this milk? They said, no. I came back to my uncle and I said, look, they don't want to buy it. And then he yelled back at me, what do you mean they don't want to buy it? Go sell it. Then I got really pumped up, and then I went and sold. And then we ended up, I think, selling like 24 pallets of soy milk of the same item.
What?
And that really got me going. I said, I like the business. And then we had a nice exit from the project we were working on. And then I said, why are we doing this food business? We should just do real estate, right? And at that time, my uncle and my dad told me, okay, if we sell our business, what are we going to do with the people that have been working with us for 20, 25 years, right? So that just changed my whole perspective towards how I looked at business, because that it was not dollars and cents. And I'm glad that I took that idea to them at that age and got shut down and truly understand that the business is not just commerce. It's not just dollars and cents. It's much more than that. And that truly resonated with me. And then I just started going into the business. And so that was how I joined the business, and then I didn't look back. Okay. And in terms of staying in the business, I had always had freedom to take decisions for the business, but, you had to sort of explain to them how to do it. In the beginning, that explanation was argument, because I didn't know how to communicate. We were both trying to find out the language of communication, right? Today, getting something approved from them is much more smoother than it was even 5 years ago, right? Because we understand each other. We know the language we need to speak to get something through, to get things done, right? So over the years, we figured that out. And and you know what? I have to be okay with the fact that I'm always going to be their kid. Right. And if they call me that, they actually don't mean it in a derogatory way. Right. I am their kid, and that's something you realize after you have your own kids, that they're not trying to put me down, because, okay, they might be telling me I'm their kid, but they're letting me make these life-changing decisions over here. So it's just, they truly think I'm their kid, so you get over that really, really fast. And truthfully, for transparency, like, I've had many thoughts in my mind to, I should leave the business and do something on my own for my own sanity or for my own personal goals. And, but every time, you're reminded of your true purpose of being in this business, and your personal growth sort of helps you tackle those things. Right before pandemic, I had actually decided that, I'm going to branch off and do my own thing. And then the pandemic happened, and it truly gave me a purpose of being in this business. Right. And to the point where I would probably never exit our family business at this point, because I have found a new love and purpose in what we do. Like we are, I mean, before that, I was like, yeah, I'm in the family business. I love it. We're doing good things. Yeah. But I'm not passionate about peanut butter or granola or almonds in that way. I'm not a chef that I love the food or anything. But what COVID taught us was that we are, in a way, enlightening or adding happiness to people's life. When everyone was locked up and they couldn't leave, all they wanted was that New World peanut butter or that box of granola or something that they cherish. So it's like we are actually providing a lot of good things to people's lives. We are and we are privileged enough to make our living not by selling products which are bad for you or in an industry which is hurting the environment. We are making money by making people's lives healthy, right? So if I have to get over a couple of family issues, I would happily go through them on a daily basis, and that has truly completely changed my perspective towards the business and why we are in this business, and after you work with someone for 15 years, you realize, they have a lot of love and respect for you. Otherwise we wouldn't be working together. Right. So, and arguments happen in non-family businesses too, but when they happen all the time, family business, we add the tag of father or uncle or cousin onto it, and we make it personal.
Well, it becomes much more personal
when it's not personal. And it's usually any issues that you have, a lot of times they are your personal inner struggles with your own self, trying to find your own reason for being, right? And then once you find that, then, I mean, there's no business which is 100% owned by one company. You have private equity, you have investors.
For sure.
I'd rather any day answer to my uncle or my cousin or my dad than a private equity investor who's just in it to make money and exit.
Well, you work for a Fortune 500. At the end of it is a shareholder, right?
It's a shareholder.
It's actually funny because we were explaining this to someone we were working with, and at the time we were missing our number. Do you remember that, Kenny?
Yeah.
And I said to them, look, we need to pick up our socks and make this number. Like if you really wanted to treat this, because when you work for Fortune 500, what you realize is the shareholder always gets what the shareholder gets, right? And there's only a couple of ways to get there. Is you either turn the profit you need to make sure the shareholder gets the dividend, or you cut bodies until you get to the number that helps the shareholder gets the dividend, right? So, in a lot of ways, a family business, it's just that I think what I'm fascinated by is there are lots of like family businesses out there. Not very many are healthy. The outlook is not as healthy as what you've got. So I think that's really fascinating to me. So how many is it like, so how many like cousins, siblings do you work with? Like,
so I have, so basically it's my dad and my two uncles, right?
Okay.
So we all work very closely together.
Okay.
And then I have a cousin who's very much active in the business, who's my elder uncle's son, Chetan, who just like me has been part of the business since his young days, so it's the four of us. And then my sister, before she had her baby, she used to come and help out in the business as well. But actively it's the four of us who are part of the business. So it's not, but the thing is,
not crazy,
when you're a
but
family, but when someone comes to our trade show booth or they come to our office, they all think we're all family, because again,
but you're tight though. You're very tight. Like the unit is very tight.
We are a value-driven business. So everyone who joins us, we take them in and take their responsibility like they're part of our family. So we pride in the longevity of our staff as well. We have people who've worked with us since 10, 12 years, 15 years, 20 years, and we take a lot of pride in that. And I think that's the beauty of family business, because the value is not just the numbers. When you have shareholders, they only see tangible value. Okay, how much money we made, this and that. But in a family business, there's a lot of intangibles which show you value as well. So which you find a lot of pleasure into. So I think that's where the charm of family business.
Yeah, it's actually fascinating. I like it a lot. If you're inside, you'd appreciate it.
It's an interesting look. Yeah,
it's watching people help people maybe buy first homes or first jobs, or come to the country with a job. And then have the ability to start without worrying about, can I eat tonight? Or am I going to be able to pay rent? Like, I watch it, and the dynamics are pretty fascinating, right? It's a very different, and you're right. And there's a lot of turmoil, and then there's a lot of calm.
Yeah,
there's a lot of yelling, and then there's a lot of quiet. It's like being at home.
And you know how it is. It's like it's how you do one thing, you do everything. You've heard that, and it starts from how we function amongst ourselves in our families. Like my uncle had no reason to let my dad into the business at that point. Absolutely no reason to do that, but he did that because he wanted his family that has come from India to thrive and give them the opportunity. Right. So and then you pass on the same thing to your vendors, your suppliers, or your customers, or your staff that joins you. You want to give them the same opportunity to grow.
So I want to ask you, because these tie together, and I want to make sure we don't run out of time. But the thing you did in London, because I think is very much so.
It's all about this.
It's because I think so. I do want to say, like, we've had people with family businesses on, and we've also talked to lots of people, and yours is the first one that's been you're really healthy in your approach to family dynamics, right? Because what we've heard a lot of is, I inherited this business. It was my dad's. So there's a little bit of like, you know, without all the judgmental, right? But there's like it was mine, now it's yours. So go
And it's not a
figure it out,
resentment, but it's
right?
like,
It's
it's like
not, but
thinking,
it's
I
kind
never
of
asked
like,
for this. I
I'm
didn't do
stuck.
this. It's mine
I'm
because I
stuck
got
with
no
this
choice.
thing. I got to do it,
Yeah.
and then we actually had people tell us during the pandemic, thank God, maybe I can just shut down the business, because they've been trying to get out, but didn't know how to get out because it was not theirs. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like there are lots of kind of those or unhealthy resolution procedures, but yours is the first one that's been, quite refreshingly holistic about how you approach the business. But I think that ties to, like, what you were doing in London. So I'm curious.
So tell us what you were doing in London. Like, tell us
so
what
tell
this
us
actually,
about London.
like the name of the course or whatever it was. Like, what is this?
I can get into that. But I think before I do that, I think our industry, the food industry that we are in, I think it helps us have a little bit of a reverence to our business, So there's an innate love for the business that your dad or your uncles are doing. So I think that helps. And I think secondly, having a healthy relationship to the business and understanding what the business is, right, I think is very important for the next generation. So because right now when you say, okay, you know what, you have to take this business and run it, it's very hard for the new person to just come in and run it, right? But if you've had those dinner table conversations and have had the kids be part of the business from day one, it becomes a little bit easier, right?
For sure.
And I think the most important thing which I learned over the years, and it really resonated at this course I did, was that it's not the business that you're trying to protect, right? It's the family that you're trying to protect. It's because it's family business. So we put so much emphasis on business because we are afraid to die. We're like, it's our livelihood and this and that. And then we forget the family, And if I look at my dad and his brothers and my relationship that I have with my cousins, who I don't even call them cousins, like I call them brothers, and my sisters, is the legacy of this business. This business has kept us all together in a way. And their true legacy is not the fact that they make the best peanut butter in the world. It's also the same family that they have kept together in this day and age when everyone is individualistic and not worried about other things, like for me to be in a position where I can call my cousin in the middle of the night and I know he will show up, and vice versa, is the true legacy. And once you know that, then the business is
that is
less
different.
Then you're just dealing with business as a burden. Okay, how do I need to deal with that? Not as a family, as a whole. So I think that is very important for everyone to realize. Like, how do you want your family to be seen? What is your legacy? Is it and not have just the attachment with the business either. It's the family, and then the business comes second, right? I think that's important. And I think that has been the reason for our joint success over the years. Our family business has been there for 40 years, right? So
it's a big deal.
It's really always been. Even when my dad was in India, he was still part of the family business because he was in the export business and exporting to his brothers in Canada. So I mean, it's been going on for the last 40 years. So that's I think that having that understanding is very important. Talking about London, in London, I did a course called Family Shift, which is put together by the Richard Ivy School and other organizations sort of supported. And it was an amazing experience because you get to meet peers from all across Canada with a lot of different backgrounds, and they talk about with same reverence about their uncles and their cousins and their family business and the same challenges that you face, they face too. And they, you're poles apart in your backgrounds, in your businesses and everything. So it was a great experience, and they truly scientifically break down how to have the continuity of family, right? And not just the business, right? So, I mean, and you look at the holistic approach on what does that family enterprise look like, and how do you ensure continuity of the family business, of the family enterprise, and the relationships, so it was a great experience. And I got to meet some wonderful people there, and build some good friendships.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Makes me want to figure out how to build a family. No, really, it does, right? Because
we can be family, Phil. We're family.
We are
the three of us are family. We could do
we
things.
are family. We are family.
Right?
Well, turn this podcast into a family business.
Listen, we're like, so you see this drawing here? This is done by the youngest, who's pretty artistic, right? And so she helped us take our profile shots. Like, I'd be lying if I didn't say the content part of our podcast business. I'd love it if she was in this too, right? So
why not? That's the beauty.
Historically, we are ingrained to do what our fathers do or what our families do.
For sure, they do.
200 years ago, a son of a cobbler was
I don't know. My parents were engineers.
Was not bread maker. Yeah, I'm talking 200 years ago.
Yeah. So I'll give you the example. So you've been to Grand Forks, right, Rattan? I don't think Phil has. You been to Grand Forks?
Yeah, I've been to Grand Forks.
Both of you?
There's a Walmart in Grand Forks.
No,
I've been there.
No.
Yes,
Walmart
there is.
No, there's not. Trust me, there's no. Grand Forks in the States. Grand Forks in BC.
No, yeah.
No, trust me, no. One in Trail. Why, we don't know, but that's a different story anyway.
Okay.
But you've been to Grand Forks. Have you driven into Grand Forks, Rattan?
Not that I can remember.
Okay.
Maybe
well, he's not even going to Chilliwack. How is he going to go to Grand Forks?
No, that's true. But if you go to Grand Forks, I'll give you why I do retail. If you come down the hill into Grand Forks, the first gas station on the left before you head down to the States, my family owned that. My grandmother and grandfather owned that.
No way.
They were in retail. I remember when we were little kids, and I know people find this offensive, but who cares? But we would go not every weekend, other weekends to Grand Forks from Trail. And my brother and I would sit in the store part and reface all the cigarettes, like put all the flavors together and things like that, because we just loved it. And then we play with the candies, and my grandmother get pissed off because we make a mess of it. But we were always farting around in stores since we were like little kids. So it's something that, my grandparents did it. They were in those types of things. I mean, it's always been some sort of retail in our family too. It's just sort of the shit you gravitate to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some cultures in India, and I think in a lot of other places too, where what your profession is, it's part of your last name.
Yeah. The blacksmiths and people like names like that were all from Smith. I think is like short for blacksmith or something like that, or something like that. But you were derived from your what your family did. You were the cobblers. You were the baker. You were whatever.
Yeah, and I think that back then there was not a lot of machinery, so everything was learned by hand. It was all handcrafted, and then that was the secret sauce of the business that was passed on to the next generation.
Yeah, and then we just automated the hell out of everything and took all the human aspect out. And then it's not as fun. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
This is so interesting. I'm glad you came on. This is like,
I told you you'd be good. It's a good, because you know what?
What were you nervous about? Like,
I don't know why you're so nervous. You're not nervous anymore, right?
We gotta say,
no.
At the beginning of this, when we first asked Rattan to come on, Rattan was like, I don't know.
Oh my gosh, like holy tea.
I mean, you have had like amazing people on your podcast, right?
But define what an amazing person is. Go back to the original things you talked about the whole pod. What's the amazing part? That they've been successful monetarily? That they're successful what? You're amazing because they're working on some amazing products. I was listening to the podcast of the person they were doing like this like the seaweed project and everything. I think that's such a great the seaweed to me is fascinating too. Like I just found that
cool. Like it's
my mom loved that one because it's an interesting story. Like and it's sustainable. Think about it. You don't need water. Why? Well, it's in the water. All right. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I mean it takes off so many amazing things.
I love it.
So many social causes in like just one thing, which I think is so amazing.
So do it from the flip side. Look from my perspective. What I've always loved about the family is, wanting to provide organics at the same or better price than conventional. Who does that?
I mean,
normal people don't do that. Just so we're very clear, I'm going to have almonds in the store organic, cheaper than the freaking Planters.
But seriously? And I'll take it one step further, because I don't own a retail store, so I love your product, but I don't care, right? Like, what I actually care about is, to me, the one that, like, I was clearly excited, right? And if we had another hour, I probably got another 18 questions for you.
Well, we could do another podcast.
But to me, the 40 years in business, and then, you know, the ability to work with family, to treat employees like family, to feel the way you feel, because you're not faking it. It's clear, right? Is you love what you do and you love where you do it. And then you have a deep respect for the people around you. And I think that, you know, in Fortune 500 companies where you get paid a lot of money, like 6-digit figures, it's hard to come by that, right? Like, it's not the same camaraderie.
It's not built into it.
And the flip side is, you grew up with these guys, you saw some of them in diapers, they saw you in diapers, you know, now you work together, you live together, you eat together, and you're still so happy. And I think, to me, that is a basic tenet for everybody, that, like, everybody's looking for that, Rattan. Like, I think that's the part that's so wonderful, that, you know, all these guests that we've had, it doesn't diminish what you have, right? Is everybody is looking for a work environment that they love, right? And I think that's something you've got. So to me, that's the most amazing thing. The fact that you got Kenny really cheap almonds, it's amazing.
My nervousness came from the point that, okay, if someone is going to listen to the podcast, I just want them to get some value out of my experiences. That was the main.
But that's a difficult one too. And we've talked about this before. What I see as valuable, someone else may not. So at the end of the day, you be true to the story and just tell a cool story. Like we had, Arjun is in essence a cousin. We've had Arjun on. Phenomenal. Why? Because it's a cool story. And they've done it for years. When we had Righteous Gelato on, his approach to leadership, like we found fascinating. Yeah. Like if you look at Lorna and helping even Caitlin out to do her things, like seriously, there's, those stories. Success to me is sometimes more of that than the financial wins and gains. And we've had 100%. People on that make a lot of money and have made a lot, and that's great. I'm happy for them. I like that story, but that's not the part of the story I enjoy. The part of the story I enjoy is all the other stuff around it. Like when I go in, I sometimes think if we put cameras in your building, it's better than the Kardashians. It's like a reality show because it's hilarious at times. Like you're just thinking, it's just so much chaos, and yet it just
Rattan, that's your next spin-off.
That's Baggas. Never gonna happen.
No, not gonna happen.
That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. Because I'll never do the thing to get the baseline going, so that's never gonna happen.
No, you got Kenny for that.
I'd wind it up.
He's the explosive Italian. You just let him go off on things.
We can wind it up.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Listen, if you guys are listening to this, and shoot us a note so we can pass it back to Rattan, because I think what you've got, you and your family, I think it's amazing, and I think
it is too, and I don't think it's as common today as I wish it was.
Yeah,
I wish it was more. I wish there was more of this again. I really think we've lost it in North America and probably the world.
Just a simple concept of like family. Yeah. Right. Like
selling out to big corps and all
getting families together is difficult and it's not fun, and you hear people complain about it, right? So, I think the fact that you've got this thing is really amazing.
So do I.
Thank you. And to your point, I think it's really important for our economies, because
it's critical.
The economies are built on businesses which have a long horizon.
Right.
And are not looking to just exit, right? Because you need businesses to pass the test of times, and truly be resilient.
And you need to take root in your communities and root in your cities. They can't be always uplifted, just moved around the world because some multinational buys them wherever they buy them and they just go. Yeah. That's not the point.
Yeah. And I mean, if it's a natural progression to that,
whatever.
it's okay. I'm not against that. It's just when you're just working for that.
Exactly.
Right. That is the problem. I just want to clarify that,
No, I
you
think
have to have a long-term approach to the business. And all the exits that we spoke about, they were not trying to get to that number. They were just trying to have a business to provide for their family. That's it, and the reason we bring those guys up,
Rattan, is because those are the ones that never went in it with the other intent. They wanted to do good business. They wanted to do like Mike just wanted to just get hemp legal because it was so stupid anyway. Like, why do we don't understand why there was, you know what I mean? And, and Charles and Brandon wanted to show people that you could be an elite athlete running on plant proteins.
Like and none of them are just sitting on their yacht and enjoying their laurels.
No, they're still investing in companies
day in day out.
Absolutely.
Trying to help.
If anything, I almost admire them more now than I did before.
You look at Fata. Right? Fata's everywhere. Fata's everywhere,
time,
right? Like it's like when he never turned it off, right? Like,
you know what? The thing is, if you knew Mike before, Mike wasn't that.
Yeah,
like he's become this more extroverted and out there and helping and like, and I don't know. I think it's awesome. I think I do. That's the beauty of our industry, though, too, Rattan. This industry, especially the natural side, lends to those types of people because they actually gave a shit when they were in the business. It wasn't all, and this is what I worried about when I walked CHFA. It felt like, to me, it's getting to feel like the old school conventionals that Phil and I used to go to.
Yeah.
And that's the part I don't like when I see that, because I think that is not the point of this, in a sense. Like, this wasn't just derived to make money. There was supposed to be a greater good to it. Obviously, if you want to sell and it comes about, God bless you. I mean, light it up. Light it up.
And I'm hoping with this one silver lining that might come from this recession coming up is that people will actually care about being profitable rather than just top line and exit, right?
I totally agree. Be profitable,
build good businesses
and try to build something good for the people around you, for your employees, for your community. Like, do it for a little bit greater good. Obviously, we're in business to make money. I mean, get rid of that. We know that. That is an outcome of business that needs to be there for business to function. It's simple. That's just straight mathematics.
But the idea is, do you want to have the business make the money, or do you want to make money from the exiting of the business?
Exactly.
Right? So if your focus is
two
on
different concepts,
the business making the money, then you're actually helping the world. You're helping your country's economy and truly adding value.
Yes,
right. So I think that's the
key
things.
Agreed.
It's a big thing. Rattan, thank you for coming on. This is amazing.
Having me,
guys. Hey, before you go, if people want to get a hold of you, or if they want to find you, where would they go? What if they want to buy some of the food?
They want to send a compliment.
They can reach me at rattan at jivaorganics.ca. And everyone that knows me knows I reply to my emails right away. and or I don't know, add me on Instagram at Rattan Bagga or on LinkedIn.
Right. Awesome.
Okay.
Buddy.
Rattan, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You can go now.
It was an honor. Thank you.
Pleasure was ours. Honor was ours.
No, really.
I'm happy you did this. Thank you. I do appreciate it. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Okay. Phil, you stick around. Rattan, go play with the family.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Rattan. Buddy. Bye.
Ciao.
He's funny. He didn't think he was going to provide value.
You know what it is? It's because it's because it's built into all of the three of our cultures. Is that we have a tendency because we still follow a lot of old things. We look at success sometimes. Successful people are those who have made the money or have done those big things. It's still like ingrained into us, even though, yes, we appreciate that that's not the only definition of success. Having a good family, being a good husband, being a good father, being a good wife, being a good partner, and whatever, giving back to the community, having, can be say, like, in business, if you're not trying to make profit, there's no point in going into business unless you're a nonprofit.
Yep.
But otherwise, the whole fundamental outcome of business is to make money. How much you make, where you put it, is a different discussion, right? But it's just to get back to It's funny. It's funny being in that building, right? Like, and they do. They try. I'm family. Like, seriously.
I think the other thing, like, you can feel it, right? Like he needs to be. It is ingrained in our cultures and many others, right? But it's almost like you need to be. If you're going to do something, you got to do it. You got to show up and you got to do it. And then you got to bring value. Right. But
Right.
I think the thing is like more and more we see, maybe I sound really old, but more and more we see, like, if you show up, it's like you get a medal, right? If
Well,
you,
showing up is winning. And I'm thinking, no, showing up
yeah,
is showing up.
like
Winning is
I don't
actually
know how many
completing.
times, like, I'm not tooting my
Seriously.
own horn. To me, it's like this really simple, it's a disappointment and an amazement at the same time, is like the number of times that I'll hear someone say, yeah, you did what you said you were going to do. And I'm like, why
Well,
would
no
I
shit.
say
Why
I'm
would I say
going to
do it otherwise?
do it if I'm not going to do
Like, I don't
it?
understand.
Like,
I don't understand.
what's the point of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, but
Like, thank you for helping
yeah,
me. Thank you for helping me. Like, in a situation where you should be helping me, shouldn't be a thank you.
yeah,
It's a thank you because it's just being polite.
yeah. But
Thank you should come
I was
from, you
supposed to
didn't
do
have
that.
to do
Like,
that.
yeah,
You weren't even involved in this. Why
yeah,
did you help me? That's a
yeah,
thank you.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like, again,
I
holding a
know.
door for a person or having a door held for me should be a
I
thank you
know.
or my pleasure.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
welcome. It's a
yeah,
given.
yeah.
Like, they don't have to do that. I mean,
No.
they should do that in my
Yeah,
head, but
yeah,
it shouldn't be like a reward. And, like you said, you don't get a prize just for showing up. I couldn't give a shit if
yeah.
you show up.
I know,
Like,
right?
show up to work on time. Oh, I showed up to work on time. Pretty good. Thinking, no baseline. No reward, baseline.
Yeah,
Right. And
yeah.
just so we're clear, 5 minutes late is not on time.
No,
No baseline.
no,
Miss
no
baseline.
baseline. Anyway, I'm
Anyway,
glad he came on.
I knew I knew we'd both enjoy it.
We kicked this around a bunch of times because
Oh my God,
Rattan's
this
been all
was
over the
before
place.
summer.
So yeah. So I'm glad we got
Me
this one
too.
because it was really good.
Me too. We didn't talk enough about the secession thing. Next one.
No, I honestly I've got so many more questions.
Next one. We'll do
but,
another podcast.
yeah. But
We'll
we're
do
like
it
a
sometime in
minute
January.
and eight.
Yeah,
An hour eight
nobody's
already,
left us. Thanks for
I
listening,
know.
everybody who's still
Thanks for
stuck around.
listening.